Should Present Plunder become a permanent game mode in Brawl Stars? We're going to tackle how likely that is to happen, plus what current issues the mode has and how to improve it. Let's do it. Now, if you like videos on how to improve Brawl Stars, check out some other ones I've done, like the best ideas for new brawlers, or, the popularity of every game mode in Brawl Stars, and why they're popular or not. Now, when Present Plunder was first added to the game, Supercell said it was a temporary game mode with the possibility of becoming a permanent game mode. Basically, if the numbers make sense. In other words, if enough people are playing the mode during this period while it's in the game, then it's likely that it will be added as a permanent game mode, as long as it doesn't negatively affect the game in other ways. Like, for example, if a lot of people start playing Present Plunder, but then they're no longer playing Brawl Ball, maybe it isn't likely to be added in the game, who knows? But for example, Graveyard Shift was another temporary game mode that had the possibility of becoming permanent if enough people played it, but as we see now, it's no longer in the game, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be added back, except maybe next Halloween. So really as a Halloween game mode, which is kind of cool, but not even close to permanent. And we heard from the team lead of Brawl Stars, Frank, that Graveyard Shift was played less than Takedown and Lone Star. And we can see from some polls of what game mode people like, that Takedown and Lone Star is one of the least popular modes. So apparently you gotta be better than those modes in order to be a permanent game mode in Brawl Stars. Important notice, if you saw my interview with Brawl Stars community manager Danny, he said that they look at community feedback in YouTube comments on videos specifically like this one. So if you have ideas on how to improve the mode or your opinion, definitely put it down below. I'll make sure Supercell knows about this video, and I'm sure they'll check out the comments just to see what sort of opinions you guys are expressing. Now, we don't have access to the actual numbers as far as how much every game mode is played. Only the team leads, only the developers really have access to that info. So instead, I asked you all your opinion of the game mode, and I think this is at least gonna be a good indicator. Now, the first poll we did was pretty simple. Just, do you like Present Plunder or not? Rate it 1 to 5. 1 is hate it, 2 don't like it, 3 it's okay, 4 I like it, 5 I love it. So overall, this kind of poll, it seems like pretty good results for Present Plunder. As an overall, my audience, you all, really for the most part like Present Plunder, or at the least it's okay, with very little amount of you really just not liking or really disliking the mode. So I mean, overall, I feel like that's a positive sign. Most people seem to enjoy it, at the least it shows the mode has potential. That's what you would think, right? Although I do think having almost half of the people saying it's just okay is also not the best sign. That's what I say. I think it shows the mode has potential, but there's definite need for improvement. It's not a clear dunk shot that it should be added to the game. If 2/3 of the people said they loved or really liked the game mode, I think it would be a dunk, but it's not exactly a dunk. And also, take a look at this poll I did for Graveyard Shift. Exact same ratings, 1 to 5, but the results pretty different. And Graveyard Shift didn't get added to the game. Graveyard Shift with almost half of my audience saying they loved it. Now, admittedly, the thing with these polls is I do them within the first few days of the game mode being out. So maybe if I had done this poll, on the end of Graveyard Shift, it could have been really different numbers. And we'll see how these numbers might change as people really get used to the mode and if they actually enjoy it after playing it for a couple weeks. Now, I do want to say I don't think these polls might be entirely accurate for Present Plunder because of one big reason. About 1/3 of the time Present Plunder is in game, it has a modifier. The ship tilts crazy and it completely changes up how you play the game. And personally, I'm not a big fan, but a lot of people have their own opinion. So I asked you all, how much do you like the mode when it specifically has the tilt and the numbers not quite as good, but not that different really? Overall, slightly more negative, but it's still not that different overall. So I thought, wait a minute, why don't I also ask you how much you like the game mode without the tilt? Since overall it seems more negative with the tilt, let's remove that and see if the numbers improve. Turns out they actually didn't improve. They got slightly worse from having it with the tilt, which was interesting because the tilt seems to have a more negative overall opinion, so I'm not entirely sure why it happened this way, but there are definitely people who enjoy the tilt, so I guess those people are now on the other side. Now that we figured out how well liked Present Plunder is as a mode, let's figure out what's stopping it from becoming a permanent game mode and ways to improve the mode. Because let's be real, it's a brand new game mode and there's always room for improvement. Now what I think is the biggest issues, and talk to my pro players, they seem to agree this is definitely one of the biggest things, is first of all, it's too hard to get the present out of the spawn. But once it is out of the spawn, it's too easy to score. It feels like every time you get the present out of the spawn, you're probably scoring about 80% of the time, and that goes for the enemy team as well. Unless you're suiciding in with none of your teammates nearby, you're probably scoring the present once you actually get it out of the spawn. But getting it out of the spawn is another issue altogether. So let's tackle those two things separately. First of all, how can we make it easier to get the present out of the spawn? I mean, there's a couple things you can do. I think the best solution for this is to just move the present closer to the center of the map. Right now, when you respawn, it's too easy to just defend. And another thing too is sometimes you have to defend your present, but you're also trying to get theirs. You kill someone while defending your present, and it makes them respawn and make it harder for you to score, which is a bit awkward. I mean, that's something you could solve if you're communicating with your teammates, but also you still got to defend yours, and that's just something that happens with the mode. It probably will always be. So really the only way to make the present easier to grab is to move the present closer to the center and maybe have different map layouts that make it easier to access the present. There's a lot of maps with a lot of walls, and that's actually causing another issue that I'll talk about a little bit after this. Now, why is it so easy to score once the present is out of the spawn? I think there's two parts to that issue. One, super pass is just too strong. A super pass, there's a lot of brawlers that can charge their super fairly easily, and a super pass gets it half the map, especially considering how the present isn't all the way back at your spawn. Once you get the present, 2 super passes will get you a goal pretty much every single time, no matter what. So if you have any coordination with your teammates, if you super pass it to them, they have super, you will almost always, 99% of the time, you should score unless something absolutely crazy happens, like basically you just don't get the pass. So first off, I think the length a super pass goes needs to be shorter. It's fine for it to be longer than a normal pass. Normal pass is really short, which is maybe fine, maybe not, but the super pass is definitely too long. Now the other issue is the timer is too long. Once you take the present out of the spawn and then it drops, it takes 10 seconds in order for that timer to reset. Now actually, opinions on this seem to be split. Some people have said in one of my community posts about ideas to improve the mode that maybe the timer should be longer. But I think it's definitely too easy to score presents, especially since you can just suicide on the present just to reset the timer, and that's a valid strategy, an extremely valid strategy. In fact, I would highly recommend that you go suicide on that present once you get it out of the spawn, because then you can just keep on respawning. You and your teammates can time your respawn, sort of, and you'll just keep resetting, and eventually one of you will be able to just force it into the spawn after enough suicides, which is kind of silly. And part of the issue with the timer being so long is it forces very specific brawlers that can stun and completely stop enemies to being almost required in this mode. Because if you cannot stop someone from reaching a present that's in the middle of the field, you have a much less chance of winning the game. So brawlers like Shelly and Tara, those 2 main brawlers, are incredibly good at this and are incredibly good in this mode just because of that. Now also there's a lot of tanks and they can stop those, especially Shelly, even without that. But you kind of need a brawler that can interrupt someone, completely stop them from getting a present in the middle of the field, and those brawlers are really the only ones that are really good at it. So as a result, this sort of thing is gonna make the meta a lot more stale. Basically, it's encouraging suiciding and brawlers that can stop that. So tanks and tank stoppers are always going to be really good in this mode unless they change this. So the meta is going to become stale. Right now, it's not, because people don't understand the mode, but once this mode gets played more, I think that's going to happen. Now this leads into another issue I was mentioning earlier, is the map layouts. The map layouts basically make it so almost all long-range brawlers are not good in this mode, which maybe that's fine, but it's basically a tank mode and a tank stopper mode when it really comes down to it, with the occasional support brawlers like Jessie and Nita that are definitely really good in this mode. Now I think a big reason for that is because there's just so many freaking maps with so many freaking walls. And I understand the reason for this. I think because it's a different game mode and you can pass over walls. So you want to make it, you know, passing over walls is kind of a cool thing. And probably also, if the maps were really open, it might be too easy to score presents. And that's where I think you need to make the timer even less so you can allow a more diverse meta by opening up the maps more. And of course, also make the super pass not as strong. If we can make scoring once it's out of the spawn a little bit harder, but easier to get it out of the spawn, I think we can have a more diverse meta with more open maps. Now, there were some other things that were commonly suggested by people, like having an unlimited score, just setting it like Bounty where there's a set timer and then it's saying, all right, go ahead kids, knock yourself out, score as much as you can, and when the timer is done, whoever's the highest score wins. I don't think that's a bad idea because it is so easy to score in this mode once you get it out of the spawn. And I could see this being a mode where it's very high scoring. That would also be something that differentiates it from Brawl Ball even more, instead of it just being a 2-score game, a maximum of a 2-score game every time. Maybe you could have higher scores. And honestly, I think that might make the mode even more fun. At least you could go in a different direction with it that could also be really fun. Although, of course, it does also open up the possibilities for ties, which is never a great thing. Oh, and I really didn't even talk about the tilt, even though I did polls on it. The tilt is definitely a somewhat of a problem for some people. I think there's some clear things that need to happen. One, when the tilt is in-game, it needs a modifier icon. A lot of people, not everyone enjoys the mode, and some people really do enjoy it. So make it obvious if it's gonna be something that you're gonna enjoy or not. That way you know. If you don't like it, don't play it then. If you do like it, definitely play it then. Another thing is maybe give a warning when the ship is going to tilt so you can sort of prepare for it. I don't know whether it's like an octopus wing flailing on the side it's gonna tilt towards or whatever it is, or a red arrow that's saying it's gonna tilt this way, but it might be kind of nice to add that. Now, another problem, which I don't think is something people are talking about, is the name of the mode. Present Plunder. I'm gonna be honest. It kind of sucks. I don't think it's a good name. It's not memorable. Capture the flag. Everyone knows what capture the flag is. Present Plunder? What the heck does that mean? I got a plunder presents? All right, look, I get it's a pirate update. It's a fitting name for pirate themed updates, but if this is a permanent game mode, is Present Plunder a good name? In my opinion, no, it is not a good name. And I don't even know if gifts is the right thing. Scoring a gift just sounds really awkward. What do you do with a gift? You score it? You plunder it? I don't know, but it needs a new name, and it can't be Capture the Flag. The reason they didn't do Capture the Flag, and this is my opinion, but I bet you it's what it is because everyone calls it Capture the Flag. They want it to be something that is specific to Brawl Stars, and whenever you say that name, you think Brawl Stars. If you say Capture the Flag, you're not gonna think Brawl Stars right away. You're gonna think of everything else. That's Capture the Flag. It has its own thing. Present Plunder. It's only Brawl Stars, but it's not a good thing. Also keep in mind that maybe the gift which you score, it could end up not being a gift. If we change the name of the mode, maybe it makes sense to also change the gift to something else. Maybe not a ball because that's too similar to Brawl Ball, but some other object. If you enjoyed this, definitely check out more ideas on how to improve Brawl Stars right over there. That is going to be it for today's video, though. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you later.